And it made me think of our mega brothers and sisters. And sometimes we are quick to discount their agency and their decision to vote for somebody who would behave in this particular way. And there are elements of the kind of the blind faith, cultish leadership, and there's also for those in that group, there's fear, and not of fear that imperils someone, but fear of being left out of a movement they joined, or fear of being called out for making a bad choice and being embarrassed. So there are all sorts of drivers there. The White Rose. It would be probably not fair to call it a student movement, but it had its genesis at the University of Munich. And we're talking about a time period beginning in either late 41 or early 42, where a number of students and their one professor put together a movement, and they did what the equivalent of what we can do now. And instead of social media, they were, pamphleteers, printing pamphlets and distributing them, all while the Nazi Party, the Gestapo, was keeping an eye out for people doing just this sort of protest. So there are many parallels here to think about, to contemplate. A group like White Rose bravely stood up for their fellow citizens to say what is happening here in Germany, the totalitarian fascist regime that is, at that point, even those that didn't want to know what was happening with the Holocaust, which was, accelerating at a rate that is inhuman, but at a pace that is hard to comprehend, even for many that were in parts of Germany where you think about the equivalent of Fox News, and they're saying, things might be tough, but it's going to be okay because our leaders wouldn't let us down. They wouldn't lie to us. They wouldn't tell us. They wouldn't tell us that things were white when they were black, would they? And that's a lot what's going on with the Trump administration uh, information machine, spurred on by the Rupert Murdoch Fox machine. And it's a silo, and it's a well reinforced silo of one source of information, repeated a number of times every couple seconds at increasingly a louder volume. It's very much what the White Rose was facing. So this group of young people. The other interesting parallel is that some of the members of the White Rose group were former Hitler youth. And if you are aware of what, that is sort of the the Boy Scout proving ground for young fascist militants. That you teach your children well. That's the opposite side of teach your children well. Hitler Youth was indoctrination of the nation's youth into the military, into the Hitler killing machine. That's what Hitler Youth was. And you can think of the Fox media message and the Trump administration and Project 2025 taking hold of what our children are taught in school. that you can only teach. You can't talk about, the almost to the point where they're saying, slavery, if not fake news, then it's overplayed by the radical left media, and it wasn't as bad as it was made out to be. Sure, it was bad, but it's so long ago that we shouldn't really count it, and certainly not teach. You know what the young children today have to do. What's their connection to slavery that happened hundreds of years ago? So why don't we just skip over that here in Florida, Ron DeSantis, and in other places, and in Texas, and let's modify our curriculum. Let's take control of that largely local function and make sure that our children are indoctrinated into believing that Donald Trump was the greatest president that ever lived. Of course, I mean, clearly, the greatest siren champion, a siren right on cue when I said Donald Trump. That's kind of cool. Yeah. So these young people, some of which were, or some of whom were members of the Hitler Youth, and they saw through reconnection with their religion, Lutheran, Catholic, Christian. Uh, they they understood the evils of what the Hitler regime were doing, both the Holocaust, obviously, but the the indoctrination process itself was evil. So these brave young champions would print up thousands and thousands of flyers and deliver them to homes. Started in Munich, but spread. And they would that was the professor would guide the students, and but they came under the evil watchful eye of the Gestapo, and they were three of the leaders were apprehended, tried, and executed in very short order. And the link to today, this very date, is that on this date, at least three of these White Rose members were executed by guillotine or guillotine, if you're a maybe a French purist. Either way, it's rather final. If you're not familiar with the mechanism, you can Google it, and it's a rather final judgment. So this was, a reminder that this has happened before, and what allowed it to continue for as long as it did, and turn into the horror that it did for Germany, for certainly for the Jewish and Roma victims, those that were sent to the concentration camps. We are not. I am not suggesting that exact same thing is happening today, but from corroborated news reports that the federal government is buying up warehouses around the country in order to quote unquote warehouse people that are the immigration. You remember the worst of the worst lie that was part of the campaign that got Trump elected. And if they're going to warehouse the worst of the worst, and they're going to have all of these beds, who else are they going to try to arrest, detain, charge, uh, denaturalize? Right? We've seen plenty of stories of that, and again, not a lot of hard evidence yet, but there wasn't a lot of hard evidence in the early part of the 1940s There was plenty of evidence in the late 1930s in Germany, but the world didn't want to look. They didn't want to face what humanity, what their fellow humans could do to other humans. And we have the advantage of having learned the lessons that our fathers, and grandmothers learned. That we have the advantage of that wisdom. But as we've proven time and time again, also, is we have remarkably short attention spans in our ability to turn the page and move on when it's not convenient to look to stare really hard at the thing that's right in front of you because it's too difficult to contemplate. So let's try not to do that. Let's call this, this pick your people. Some people like fascism. Some people don't like fascism. Ethno-fascism is accurate, but is it cumbersome? And we don't want to get in you know, the Democratic Party or liberal or however you want to refer to it. We don't want to get in the trap of being too caught up in getting the perfect definition for something. We can just say that authoritarianism bad. You can stop at that. Or if you want to, as we like to do, is we like to debate things and debate terms, and like I'm doing tonight, providing the context from our history, our shared history of other instances where we've allowed our worst instincts to move us to a place where we have no business going as human beings. And you have the Stephen Millers and the J.D. Vances cheering from one side. You remarkably uh, Mike Huckabee, the former Sarah's dad, yeah, that guy. Just pulling in all different directions with biblical references, and he is a good friend of the state of Israel, but he also is a verifiable whack job. And if you have too many more of these sorts of people that are, if you'll excuse the expression, Bible thumping for a political purpose, then we have a problem. We have an idiot with a hairpiece standing up in Washington, D.C. with an upside down Bible selling it. The false prophet issue. And we don't need that right now. We don't need the false prophet. We need the real ones. So do what you can. Do your voter registration. Make sure you have salt and a shovel if you're in the Northeast tonight. This is marching right up through New York and Providence and Boston and the East Coast, and because we're living in the time that we are, the cynical part of me, which is maybe an increasing part of me, wants to see Donald Trump's response, as I wrote earlier today, in disaster relief. He has shown before, as he continues to show in California after the fires more than a year ago, is that he withholds your money. He withholds your own tax dollars that are sitting there to do disaster relief. That's not Donald Trump's money. That's your tax dollars sitting in a FEMA account, and you have Donald Trump deciding who is worthy of his largesse with your own money. You think back to Katrina. You think of times that people were disadvantaged in disaster relief because of their skin color. And it's happening now, and it'll happen again. And the added layer, which we haven't really experienced before Donald J. Trump, or DJT, is that he is doing the same thing based on what political party you're a member of. Who did you vote for? Means how much of your own money you're going to be given back to rebuild after disaster, to buy food for your kids, water, fuel assistance because it's going to be cold and it's going to be blowing. That sort of thing. So you have a monarch in his little mind only, but making those, by fiat, pointing and saying that there's this $1 billion, we're going to give 89% of it to these red states were affected, and the blue states that were affected 5x by the storm, and the number of people impacted, and the total economic cost of reconstruction, and snow removal, all those things that FEMA was set up to do, that I'm going to let them fight over the scraps because they didn't vote for Donald J. Trump in the last election, right? Yeah, that's the kind of guy he is, and that's the kind of time we're living in. So it's helpful to remember the White Rose and the other resistance groups during the Second World War, during the Nazi era, that stood up and paid some of them dearly with their life and the guillotine, which is quite a way to go. But be emboldened, or as they said 100 years ago, uh, take heart. You know, get get uh, get courage from those that came before us, that would stand up and say, "No, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing this to our neighbors, and we're not letting you do this to us." So we're going to keep talking to, you know, uh, uh, you know, are we going to allow the Elon Musks, the Peter Thiels? Peter Thiel, was he going to, he's investing in German military tech companies, and the German, quite correctly, they're taking a hard look at, do we want a professed white nationalist to invest in our military tech companies? You know, good question. It's kind of like your friend Elon. It's the same question. We already Elon answered the question for us in pretty short order in the Doge sense. Yes, he's a genius. Let him build batteries until the end of time and take space trips to wherever and however far he would like to travel. We encourage that. And one-way tickets are encouraged. But, these tech bros, Zuckerberg and Jeff and all the other clowns, we have to continue to find new ways to put pressure on them to say, we're not doing this. We're not doing this, and you all that are laying down for your own interests, your own personal wealth, and for your company's growth. Yeah, shareholder, whatever bullshit, let's not talk about that right now. You need to stand up for your fellow citizens and remember that what you're doing right now will not serve you in a different administration. So why don't you try to be a good human and show a little bit of courage in a way that you could explain to your sons and daughters. Mark Zuckerberg at your Menlo Park madrasa, where you secretly don't teach neighborhood children of your friends any longer, but you probably do. You just don't do it on the property of your home anymore. So, what are you going to teach those kids? Were you the guy that laid down naked on a cold floor for Donald Trump's entertainment? Or did you have the spine, the courage to stand up and say, no, this here, this is where it stops for me. I am Tech Bro One. I am Ready Player One. I'm the guy. I'm going to say no, and I'll take I'll take a little bit of heat, but I'm also going to talk to my boys at Amazon, my boys at uh, Apple, and we're going to stand strong. We're not closing down our businesses. That isn't what this is about. But we need to stop the crazy train, which is that Aussie, right? Um, we need to make a stand, and this is a good place to start. Think about the White Rose, read about it a little bit, and be inspired by people that were put their interests second to those of their countrymen, right? Like patriots and like good citizens and like good humans, because we need more of all of those kind of people right now. So thank you. And maybe if I can be creative and do it without, you know, losing a camera or something, we'll get a snowy, wintry version of this sometime tomorrow. It's a snow day. Thank you. Have a great night.